I've been having a really busy day. I don't know how everyone else is doing out there. But it's live. I'm unprepared. Um, so the whole day there's been this developing story about the Hersh article. If you don't know, Seymour Hersh is a internationally known journalist who was the reporter who broke the My Lai massacre in 1969. And he had, up until now, pretty impeccable credentials on the left. But there are a lot of people who are saying that his latest story is inaccurate. His latest story is he has one source in the government. I take it the American government. I haven't really looked at the article too well. But who told him that the U.S. government, in conjunction with the government of Norway and NATO, sabotaged the Nord Stream pipelines. I guess both of them, since there were two explosions. In the article, he only mentions one spot. And so some people are also trying to, because there were two explosions, I think, I think they're somebody can correct me, 6 kilometers apart. And then there were some other people who were saying that the ship that supposedly was in the area, or none of the ships in the area, stopped because they have to supposedly hold position when they have divers. These are open-ended questions because I don't know who knows anything about that. And I don't know if the divers were on the ship or were on a submarine, what's going on. Most people who are skeptical they're drawing attention to stuff in the article which may or may not stick. Stuff like, for example, Hersh mentions the current head of NATO as being a longtime CIA asset going back to the Vietnam War when he was 12 years old or 13 years old. That's neither here nor there because the guy was politically active back then. So basically that's irrelevant. His age is irrelevant because, yes, you can use 13-year-olds if you want to penetrate lefty circles, which is what he was doing. He was involved with a left-wing outfit in Norway. Stoltenberg is his name. He's the current head of NATO. And he was involved in anti-Vietnam protests. So when the article says, Hersh's article says, going back to Vietnam, that's accurate. Anyway, so a lot of this is just nitpicking. And some of it is a little bit more concerning, like, for example, did they have enough time to plant the explosives? Were they on this ship that I think Hersh references one particular type of ship. We don't know. And so they are literally, like, right now, there's like 6 or 7 things that people are nitpicking. Most of them, and when I say people, I suspect these are people on the government payroll. Most of them are not really relevant. The only thing that's really relevant is whether or not those ships were out there in conjunction with a program that could have had divers. That's the only thing that's really relevant here. And if they had divers out there, if they could have planted divers out there, then there's a good chance that Hersh's story is plausible. The conversation right now is, well, they said stuff like these planes didn't exist. One plane dropped a buoy in order to trigger the detonation, but the only plane that was on record as being in the area dropped the buoy after the explosions were detected, I guess, seismically. So it's a lot of questions. There's still a lot of questions. However, I find that most of it is nitpicking. Just a few things are of real concern. I don't think the article itself is dispositive, but I do think that if there's somebody in the government Probably not in the military, because the military really don't do this kind of thing. Um, I mean, they don't leak stuff. So it's probably a civilian who may or may not, or maybe someone in the CIA who may or may not be privy to all the technical details, all the military details. I don't know. I don't know. But I find most of the criticisms of the article to be disingenuous. I just don't find them even interesting. But that's what the development is, and I look forward to more developments on whether or not those ships were out there and whether or not it was plausible that they could have been diving off. I guess the idea is, well, if you have two explosions and they're 6 kilometers apart, you really can't have divers out there in the middle of nowhere, um, unless you take them to each spot. I think that's what they're trying to argue, as opposed to you diving and then you going 6 kilometers out of your way. I don't know what the capability is, although, according to the article, and this too is nitpicked, they didn't use regular special ops. They used some sort of research unit. According to the article, they didn't use regular ops, because if you use special ops, you have to brief somebody in Congress, and that's no bueno if you want to keep a lid on it, because you know Washington is full of holes. So anyway, there was a development too, I think. Let's see if I can remember what it was, having to do with Dore. So Jimmy Dore, if you haven't seen one of my last videos, Jimmy Dore was caught forcing, and it is forced, by the way. If you have employees and you want to employ them and they want to work because they need to work, because they're not giving away rent for free anywhere, and you tell them you have to sign an NDA, right, a non-disclosure agreement, that's by force. So that's what Jamie Dore was doing. Make no mistake about that. That's 100% correct, or 100% definite. So he was handing these out and having his employees signing them, and then it was also found out that he received about $33,000 in those personal loans from the government. And plus there's other stuff that's been revealed off the record. Like, for example, his concerns are really about, like, he made this big hullabaloo about the laws in California hurting small business, because he wants people to be independent contractors as opposed to employees. That helps him. So that's something he wants to crush workers, and he wants to put workers in a pocket. Exact same thing that Cenk Uygur did. Exact same thing. There's like no difference. So, and that was revealed also, that he got a long history of saying things, and then a more recent history of saying other things. So first he starts off being for workers, then he starts off being for petty bourgeois small business. Like, on the grand, we imagine small business to be better. A lot of people imagine small business to be better than corporations, and in some contexts they are. But as somebody who came out of working in food, I can tell you a lot of small businesses, a lot of restaurants abuse their workers. So it's not as clear cut as you would think. All right, well, anyway, I got to get on with the show. I got to do something else. So this is a small little video, but I wanted to add those details out there as to what Dore was doing, or what the latest on Dore is, and give my opinions. I don't really have an opinion other than I think the Seymour Hersh article, I have a lot of doubts that these skeptics are right. I somehow doubt the idea that Hersh got it wrong, because they can't find the exact records of boats or planes being out there at the time that they want. So I don't. I'm very very. Instead of being skeptical of the report, I'm skeptical of the people that are skeptical. I don't find that to be real skepticism, because they're trying to nitpick on multiple levels. But with Dore, I have no such feelings about that. I think Dore is frankly an open and shut case. You know, he's a capitalist. He's a petty bourgeois um, employer, business owner. Um, in some cases, a business owner may be better than a huge corporation, but in this case, I don't think there's much of a difference, frankly. But that's it. I mean, if you were being employed and you needed the job, which is why you're taking the job, and somebody says you have to sign this NDA, that's not equal bargaining power. It's not equal bargaining power, period, in our society between bosses and regular folks. So anyway, I gotta go. I'll see you guys later. This is my first time going live, actually, so I will talk to you guys some other time. And bye bye.